Hi, I'm Kristen with an E, and this is Talk with Kristen with an E, a place to slow down, be honest without having all the answers, and feel a little less alone together. Let's talk it out. Hey, everybody, welcome back. So it has been a minute since it's been just you and me here talking together. Past several episodes, I have been with friends and guests. I have some other guests lined up that I'm very excited about. But for today, it's just you and me. So today's topic, I'm hoping it's not going to be all over the place, but I haven't completely planned it out. It's something I have been thinking about for a little while, probably longer than a little while. Like even in season 1, I thought this might be something that I would talk about, but I hadn't figured out exactly how I wanted to do it or how it kind of fit in. So as it was coming up to record today, I was like, all right, so maybe today is the sometime that we're finally going to talk about it. So all this lead up and like, it's not even going to be that exciting, or I've hyped it up too much that you're going to think it's even more exciting than it is. But what it is I started to think back on my childhood, which according to my son was like millions of years ago when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. I was thinking about kind of the people that made me who I am. And I don't necessarily mean the people in my family, although I had amazing role models and my grandma was very, very special to me. But I was thinking more about the people that I saw on TV and movies and the impact that it had on my life. And the reason that came up is because as I'd been thinking about it, I started looking at the characters that either I had emulated or had kind of felt close to and how they kind of turned up in my life even now as an adult. So let's just dive into it then. I remember as a child, one of the first characters that I felt I really related to was Punky Brewster. It was one of those shows from the early 80s, kind of like an after-school kind of show where there would be a kind of situation Punky would have to deal with or get out of, and with her and the help of her friends, it would end and there'd be like a happy ending at the end of the episode. And not all the time. I mean, honestly, the whole premise of Punky Brewster is kind of a sad story. So she was with her mom. Her mom left her at a shopping center, grocery store kind of situation. And she found a dog, or she and her dog, Brandon, ended up kind of as squatters and staying in this apartment building, in an empty apartment. And then Henry, who was the older gentleman who was like the superintendent of the building, found her and then ended up taking her in. And then Punky and Brandon lived with Henry. And there was the whole dynamic because Punky was this little girl and Henry was this older, crotchety kind of old man. And then there was her best friend, Cherry, and she lived with her grandma. So Cherry's grandma was in the building. And then there were the friends from school like Margot and Alan. It's a great show. You should go back and watch it. But the impact that Punky had on my life was just her fierce love for her friends and kind of her can-do attitude. She would often say, Punky power. And it was kind of her own, like, despite everything she'd been through in her life, she had this confidence about her that she was almost unstoppable. And if you've watched Punky Brewster, there were some episodes that really stood out that in my 40s now, I still remember vividly. There was the one where they were playing hide and seek, and then Cherry got into an old refrigerator, old freezer that was outside. And it got locked and she was trapped in there, and that was kind of scary. And the other one was with the Challenger explosion because it happened kind of right around the time Punky was on. So there was this episode of Punky really wanted to be an astronaut. And then the Challenger explosion happens while they're at school, and there's dealing with the aftermath from that and kind of how, the children dealt with that, and especially Punky, who wanted to be an astronaut, and what this meant for her. But the other thing about Punky, aside from her confidence and her Punky power and her love for her friends, she also really didn't care what anybody thought about her. And I don't necessarily mean that she didn't think about that, but she would wear mismatched shoes and just these kind of really wild outfits. And it's just, she was so sure of who she was that it didn't bother her. Like, she didn't care what people thought about what she was wearing or what she was doing. Like, that was just her. And I love that. And I feel like that kind of ended up staying with me even later in life. Like, I've gone through different stages of fashion in my life. And I would go through, okay, let's take a step back. I have never been like a totally trendy person. Like, my parents were really big on being frugal and budget friendly. So I didn't have like name brand clothes till I got my own job. And I went to private school my whole life. So I didn't get an opportunity to kind of wear a lot of the styles when they were popular. So in my adult life, there's been different trends and fashion stuff, but I've kind of always just stuck to wearing what I like. And I got my first pair of sparkly blue Kate Spade Keds. And I fell in love with them. Like, sparkly shoes was my thing. I got them in silver and gold and black. Basically, I had a pair of sparkly Kate Spade Keds to wear with almost every outfit I have for work. And I kept joking, like, I want to be known as the girl in the sparkly shoes. Like, do you remember, this is probably another character I should have included in this episode also, but the Confessions of a Shopaholic, the book by Sophie Kinsella, phenomenal. Like, it was the book that got me into loving Sophie Kinsella books. But they made a movie about it, and it was pretty close to the book. Like, the movie's good. I'd watch the movie again. And the main character, Becky Bloomwood, she's looking at this scarf, and it's a green scarf. And you have to watch the scene in the movie because it's so good. And she's like, I just need to have that scarf. Like, I need to be known as the girl in the green scarf. And that kind of stuck with me because when I got these sparkly shoes, I was like, I need to be the girl in the sparkly shoes. Like, when people reference me at work, I wanted to be like, oh, do you know Kristen? Kristen? I don't know. The girl in the sparkly shoes. Like, I realize it sounds so silly, but that's like one of the things that I really wanted to be. So I would wear my sparkly shoes. But the reason I wanted to connect that back to Punky Brewster is because I know that's not the typical thing. Like, people in general are not wearing sparkly shoes to work. I, however, am, and I'm trying to make it my personality. So I just feel like Punky kind of gave that permission as little girls to just do your own thing, care about your friends, and just be confident in who you are. And I don't think that I had a whole lot of confidence in my younger days, as we've mentioned in a few other episodes. Like, I struggled a lot with insecurities, and I still do now at 42 and a half or whatever. Like, they're different insecurities, but I still deal with those. But it's something that we can learn from Punky and her Punky power, just to believe in yourself and that you can do anything. And it doesn't matter if your shoes match or if they're sparkly shoes, you are still as special as you are. So Punky Brewster was one of my first role models. Another one, and I'm trying to go in kind of the order of when I met these people. Yeah, not in real life, but when they came into my life and kind of became a role model. And even that word is a stretch. They're like characters that I connected with. So after Punky Brewster, it was Mary Tyler Moore. Now, as her character of Mary Richards in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Now, this one is interesting because the Mary Tyler Moore Show is even older than Punky Brewster. So clearly I was not watching Mary Tyler Moore when it was first on. I was catching it more at Nick at Night reruns. And this was probably, I can't say exactly what age it was, but it was probably, like in that preteen to teenage time is what I'm thinking. I was really big into the Nick at Night shows, like really big. I also loved Get Smart, and I liked Agent 99. But like, that was never really like my go-to character. Mary Tyler Moore, Mary Richards was my girl. Like, I loved her. And I think part of the reason I connected with her so much was because I wanted to be a journalist. Like, that was my entire goal in life. I wanted to be on the news. Like, I wanted to be the girl out of the street, like reporting live and being like, back to you in the studio, Bob. Like, I wanted to do that. And then after I did that for a while, then I wanted to go be Barbara Walters, like, I'm Barbara Walters and this is 2020. Like, I wanted to be that so bad. which I think I mentioned before, but I really did. And I do think I would have been good at it. But that's another story for another time. We're talking right now about Mary Tyler Moore. And so the premise of this one is Mary Richards. She kind of just goes off on her own, which in the 70s, that was like a huge thing. Like people weren't doing that, or not on the regular, I don't think. It was, you get married, you have babies, you're a wife, you're a mom, you clean the house. It wasn't that long after like Leave It to Beaver type shows, right? So it was huge for Mary to just go off into the big city and get her job in the news and live in her apartment by herself with her best friend Rhoda, who, that was another thing. Like, I wanted a friend like Rhoda. I wanted a neighbor who just came over and was also my best friend. Like, there were so many parts about Mary Richards that I really connected with. Journalism and her independence was, again, just how she believed in herself. She was in a field that at that time was mostly men. You didn't see a lot of women in the newsroom. It wasn't something that happened a whole lot. And so here she was on her own, making a name for herself, doing the thing. And it was phenomenal. And again, one of those shows I would still go back and watch again. Like, I absolutely love it. But I think that I connected with Mary so much, not only because of the journalistic kind of path that I thought I was on, was just because it really helps give me a figure to see that as a young girl, I could grow up and do anything I wanted. Like, nobody was going to stop me. And it didn't matter what field I went into, if it was a male-run field or if it was a place where maybe I wasn't supposed to be because girls don't do that job or something like that. Like, I never once thought that I couldn't do whatever I put my mind to. And I do think part of it was because of Mary Richards and seeing her out in the big city, living her life, doing the thing. And to connect that to my life now, it's interesting because the field that I'm in, I think there were parts of it that may have been more male dominated in the past. And I came in as a, young girl and have climbed the corporate ladder or whatever and doing the thing. But I think the part of it is seeing that Mary didn't let people get in her way. Mary still was confident in herself, in her abilities, and she never questioned her being there. Like, she knew she belonged there. And I think that that's something I was able to take when I joined the working world, is to look around. And even though if I didn't look like all the other people in the room, that didn't mean I didn't belong there. And maybe that meant I had to work a little bit harder, but I was going to do that because that's what Mary Richards taught me to do, that you work hard, you have your friend Rhoda, and you can live in the big city and be independent. So yeah, Mary Tyler Moore as Mary Richards was my second role model character that I felt that I resonated with. So one, not too dissimilar from that. And I do think I've talked about this one on the podcast several times. There was a whole series I was going to do last season about Elle Woods' energy, and I just didn't get around to it. So for now, yes, we are talking about Elle Woods. So Legally Blonde is one of my favorite all-time movies. Like, I will watch that over and over and over again. It's like the way I tell people when I know it's my favorite movie, it's if it's a movie that I can watch over and over and not get bored, or like it's a movie that like, oh, if it's on, I have to watch it if it's on. So Legally Blonde is one of my favorite movies, and Elle Woods is one of my favorite characters. Like, you can see I have a type. Like, there are characters that I am drawn to, right? But Elle Woods, she was one who, here she is, runs into a little bit of an issue with Warner breaking up with her because she's what? Too pretty, too blonde, too whatever. Both problems I have never had, but it happens. And then she didn't let that stop her. Then she worked on getting into law school, studied, took the LSAT, got a high grade, then went to Harvard Law. What? Like, it's hard? And then outshone Warner in his own program. I mean, talk about a little bit of girl power. But again, like, Elle was the kind of character that even when people didn't believe in her, like, they didn't think she should go to law school. She was someone, again, like Mary, who had a close circle of friends, who believed in herself, who went out and did it. And I think, when Legally Blonde came out, was it 2000, 2001? It was around that time frame. So I'm like, a senior in high school or starting college. It was at a pivotal moment in my life where, I had just been coming off the girl power movement anyway, because, we had Spice Girls. Like, we had a lot of, I don't know if monumental is too strong of a word. We had a lot of role models, and girl power was a huge movement. I mean, a little bit later, I think, I don't have my timelines all lined up, but you have Beyonce and, or Destiny's Child at the time. I think Kelly Clarkson had an independent woman song too. Like, there were all these very powerful women songs about we don't need men, we can do whatever we want, we are powerful, girl power, all of that. And I think that Elle Woods was kind of there around that same time, which again kind of showed like, you don't need a man. You don't need a man to hold you back. You don't need a man to tell you can't do it. You don't need any of that. Like, believe in yourself, put in the work, and be amazing. And the other thing, again, because there's connections with these women also, is Elle Woods was very into being her own person. She was wearing the pink when everybody else was drab. And she didn't care because that's what she wanted to wear. And it was her personality and it was who she was. And she owned it. And she didn't minimize herself for anybody or change who she was because of what she was. And when you look at that and again, kind of compare it to Punky Brewster and wanting to be the girl in the sparkly shoes. And I remember a very specific moment where I started my big girl job. I was 22 and a half, so literally right out of college. And I remember sitting in one of my orientation classes and looking around and seeing all these people that were probably old enough to be my parents. Some of them were mid-career, later career, and I'm looking all around. And here I am in my little skirt, and I swear I was like so Elle Woods. Like, I felt like I was Elle Woods around all these people. And I really do think I had like a pink fuzzy pen that I might have had with my notebook too. I can't remember. Like, that's how I picture it in my head, but I don't know if that actually happened or if that's just how I'm remembering it. But I do know that I definitely felt like I was Elle Woods with all these other people. And here's the thing. I didn't really let that stop me. Like, I kind of acknowledged, okay, I may not be like everybody else, but I'm still me, which is a good attitude to have. And I remember I had taken a course probably about 2 years after that. So I'm 24, maybe. Let's say I'm between 23, 24. And it was a class about women in the workplace. Let me just get to the point of the story. So afterwards, I asked the instructor, I said, hey, I'm really looking for ways that I can be taken more seriously in the workplace. And let me put more context of what I meant. As I mentioned, my first big girl job, I was by far one of the youngest people in the workplace. I was not the only female, but it was a more male-dominated, older field that I was going into. And so it wasn't that I was necessarily taken seriously as a woman, but more as a young woman, more like I'm right out of school. Like, these people, they still look at me like their daughter. Like, how can I be taken more seriously? And the instructor had looked at me and she was like, well, for one, you could change what you're wearing and lower your voice or something like that. Like, basically change who you are. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And I left and I sat in my car, which, was a Volkswagen Jetta because that's on brand. And I was like, why should I have to change who I am? And I remember, I do think I had told her too before I walked out, like, well, I have a degree in communications. I had an entire semester on voice and articulation. Like, there's nothing wrong with my voice. And my outfit, I remember exactly what I was wearing, and it was adorable. So I had on this little kind of like A-line black skirt, came about to my knee, maybe till my middle of my knee. I had on a little sweater with an Argyle print right across the front of it. Keep in mind, this is like 2007, 2008. It was very, very, still preppy, stylish, right? And then I had on knee socks, which they didn't come like the whole way up to my knee, but they were like taller, like cute little Argyle socks that match the Argyle pattern on the sweater, and little Mary Janes with like little crisscross straps on it. It was adorable. Looking back now, okay, maybe it had a schoolgirl feel, but like that wasn't what I was going for. Like, to me, it was a preppy, cute girl outfit. I looked adorable. So it bothered me because the other women that I had seen in the workplace, and I say this with the utmost love and respect to those women who taught me so much and I appreciate very much, would wear like pants, kind of like, navy blue pants or khaki pants or gray pants, like plain pants and a shirt, and then like a cardigan, like a big kind of chunky. And I remember even thinking like, oh my gosh, when I get like to my 40s and 50s, am I just going to be this frumpy old lady at work? I'll let you know that here at my 40s, I still try to wear cute clothes, but not the point. I'm getting so off track here. The point is, it really hurt my feelings that that woman made it seem like I had to change who I was if I was going to be taken seriously. And I thought back to Elle Woods, who kind of received similar feedback and didn't let that stop her. She still showed up in her pink suit. She still had on her cute shoes. She still carried Bruiser around with her, her little dog. Nobody was going to stop Elle Woods from being Elle Woods, and she was still going to be successful. And therefore, nobody was going to stop me and make me change who I was, because I was still going to be me and show them that I could still be successful being who I was. P.S. I was and I am. But anyway, so the final character that I really kind of resonated through then my teenage and young adult life was Felicity. And this one, I think, has come back even more because I have been watching reruns. It's still a great show. Like, if you have not watched Felicity, let me tell you. So Felicity, the premise of the show, Felicity graduates high school and her parents have her whole life planned out for her. She's going to go to medical school there nearby at a school in California. She's going to grow up, be just like her parents, be successful, be wonderful. They've got it planned out. She, however, changes that plan. She travels a boy she had a crush on in high school across the country to a school in New York, and then later ends up changing her major from pre-med to art or something else. And the whole reason she follows that boy who she never even really talked to in high school is because he wrote some message to her in her yearbook, and she was like, that's it. This is what I'm doing. I'm following this boy to school in New York. And then it kind of follows her life and her friends' lives through their 4 years of college. And I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but she does date the boy from high school, then she doesn't, and she's dating the RA, and then there's a lot of like back and forth, and watching it now as an adult, it's definitely a different perspective. But the character Felicity on her own is somebody who was very emotional. And I don't mean that to be taken in a negative way, because sometimes you can say, oh, women, they're so emotional, and it ends up being a negative thing. And it was not. It was just that she had a lot of feelings and she paid attention to them, and she had her intuition, and she didn't, again, kind of the recurring theme of all of these, characters that I felt connected to is that she didn't let somebody else's plan be the plan for her life. She still knew what she wanted to do and went ahead and did it, and had supportive friends. And there were things she went through that she had to figure out, but she always found a way to make it happen. And so while I don't necessarily know that I felt as strong of a connection with her as some of the other characters I've mentioned, there was something that I still felt so relatable with her. And I was thinking about the female characters that I connected to throughout my life and kind of what I learned from them and what I took to them into my current adult life. She was definitely one of them where I just felt like she's somebody I would have been friends with, somebody that I kind of saw myself in. So, all that to say, something that I kind of want to do going forward is hear from other people. Like, what were the characters that you resonated with when you were younger, and what kind of impact did that have on you later in life? And what lessons did you learn, or what did you take from it? And I'm sure like everybody has a story. There's somebody that you watched on TV and you were like, yeah, I could do that, or I want to be that, or something. And like I said, to kind of wrap mine all up, mine was really seeing women, girls who didn't let people stop them, who didn't live in boxes they were put in, who didn't change who they were and were able to still accomplish what they wanted to do. And that's what I would encourage you as we're kind of learning and growing together and letting go of insecurities and building more of our confidence, is to go back and look at who you were when you were little and what you believed then and what your goals were, and where you are now and kind of what changed or what connects you still to that little girl, and just kind of thinking about things like that. As I've mentioned, I've taken away a little something from all of those characters. I do believe I can do anything I put my mind to. I am confident that I can survive and even thrive, even if it's in a male-dominated environment. I will continue to wear my pink and my sparkly shoes and not change who I am for anybody. And I will continue to pay attention to my feelings and care for others and just be everything I was meant to be. So I think maybe this turned out a little bit more organized than I was afraid it was going to be, all over the place. At least I hope it kind of made sense, and maybe you remembered something or connected with something that made you think of something. So that's all for now. I am sure we'll dive more into this because I am really trying to get more into kind of talking about confidence and how we can be more confident and teach confidence in others. So look forward to some upcoming episodes on that. But for now, just thanks for being here. And again, reach out and let me know who were some of the characters that you connected with. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope this conversation made you feel a little less alone. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk with you soon.